If you need extra practice simplifying square roots, you want to be watching this video. So I'm going to start off with an example of square root of 40. Notice 40 is not a perfect square, so we can't reduce it just down to one single number like we could if it was the square root of 9. So what we have to do instead is break this square root up into two numbers that we know that multiply to get 40, where one of them is a perfect square. So you want to think of your factors of 40. So I know automatically that 4 times 10 would get me 40, and I'm going to put the square roots over them. So square root of 4 times square root of 10 is the square root of 40. And what you notice is that square root of 4 is a perfect square. So I can reduce this to a 2, and I cannot break up the 10 or reduce it anymore, so I'm going to leave it as root 10. So 2 root 10 is the reduced version of the square root of 40. And we can do that with almost any number that can have a perfect square go in it. So for example, maybe I have the square root of 80. So in this case, same concept. I can think of a perfect square that goes into 80. Well, 4 times 20 can get us 80. And I already know I can reduce the square root of 4 down to a 2. But can you reduce the square root of 20 any further? Well, we know that square root of 4 times the square root of 5 can get us 20. So I can reduce this again. So square root of 4 we know is 2, and then times the root 5. So notice now I've got some leftovers here. I've got a 2 and a 2 that can multiply to get us 4. And then I have this square root of 5 left over. So 4 root 5 is the same thing as the square root of 80. Now, if you could have figured out that 16 and 5 got us 80, I could have started off with that right at the beginning. So I could have broken 80 into root 16 times root 5. And this would have saved us that extra step. But sometimes we don't think of those numbers right away, so maybe you find something smaller to work with first. That's perfectly okay as long as you reduce every square root down to its smallest possible roots, and then you'd be done. If you have any questions about how to reduce them, make sure you ask me for some extra examples. That's it.